Hey, what's up, Vic here. This is the iPhone Air, Apple's thinnest phone, and I had a lot of doubts and anxiety about it. It's now been 1 month, I had to switch to an eSIM plan for it, and I had to face some big questions. Is a super thin and light phone something I really want? Will the battery even last a full day? Will I miss important photos because it has just one camera? And ultimately, do I regret buying it? But first, let me explain why I sacrificed so many things for this slim phone. And there's two ways to look at this. First, it's trying to reason it out. How often do you take photos and videos on your phone? Like 5% of the time, 10% of the time, maybe more if you're really into photography. But even the most adamant photographers don't spend hours with this hobby. 90% of the time you're just, well, using the phone. And having a light and thin phone improves those 90% of your usage every single time. You can occasionally appreciate a beautiful zoomed photo, but you will appreciate the thinness and lightness of this phone every single moment you use it. The second way to look at it is purely emotional. I know most people who see this phone are immediately impressed by the look and the feel. But does this feeling wear off on you after a month of use? I certainly got used to the weight, but it was something else for me. After a month of living with the Air, I know I get a feeling of disappointment the moment I pick up a regular flagship. And it is in those moments that I am reminded about the benefits of the Air. Alright, beauty is one thing, but I had other doubts too. Can I use a phone so thin without a case? Will it break or scuff? Now here's a quick story. I used the iPhone 17 Pro for a week before switching to the Air, and it got a scratch on the very first day because of the softer aluminum material. Now I've been using the Air for a month, no case, no screen protector, and well, it looks brand new. The titanium frame not only looks prettier than the aluminum one on the Pro iPhones, it's more durable too. Apple also promised 3 times better scratch resistance with the ceramic shield 2 on the screen. And this surprisingly seems to be true. 30 days in and there is not a single scratch on the screen. Really cool. One thing I really think gets overlooked about the Air is the display. The Air strikes an almost perfect balance of not being too small or too big. And when you compare it to the 17 Pro, it feels just way more immersive without being overwhelmingly huge like the Pro Max. This screen size feels so perfect, I'm starting to think that Apple should make a Pro model in this exact size with a bigger battery, and so many people will love it. Alright, let's talk cameras. I've taken over 3,000 photos and videos in the past 30 days, capturing some incredible moments with this camera. I visited Ukraine for a few weeks, I traveled around Europe, and I just snapped away. Did I wish I had a zoom camera occasionally? Sure. Over the summer, I used the telephoto camera of the iPhone 15 Pro to create a brand new Instagram channel with dance videos that got millions of views, so I can appreciate the power of additional cameras. And if I had to keep on recording that type of videos, the iPhone Air certainly would be a no-go. But just for traveling and for family photos, I was perfectly fine missing the ultra-wide and telephoto lenses. Now, I'm not trying to do some mental gymnastics to advocate for Apple here. Making an iPhone with one camera is a choice. What I am saying though is that I am fine with that choice. Similarly, you can criticize a Lamborghini for not accommodating 5 people comfortably, but that would be missing the point of the car, don't you think? The iPhone Air is a bit like a race car, luxurious in some ways, limited in others. And I think that's okay. But if this one thing went sideways about the phone, I would have to return it, even if it was a Lamborghini. Yes, I'm talking about the battery life. You can kind of live without a telephoto camera, but a phone that dies on you in the middle of the day is just a no-go. So here's the deal. The iPhone Air battery life is pretty consistent, which is good. It won't just start draining super quickly with certain tasks, so there is predictability. In my use, I was down to about 20% in the late evening, about 10 or 9 p.m. On an average workday, this was more than enough. Like all other iPhones, the Air also has great standby times, so you can leave it for hours and it will barely use a couple of percentage points. If you, however, are the type that would go on a longer hike or just use their phone a lot, then you have some issues with this battery life. You can then get a power bank, but that kind of defeats the purpose of this phone, don't you think? And finally, there is the loudspeaker situation. You probably already know, but this phone has only one speaker and it's at the top, not the bottom. You can kind of live with it, but it's definitely quieter than on other phones. This is a bit of a problem if you take your calls on loudspeaker and you need that louder volume. For music, it's mostly fine. I encountered one other problem though. Be it for a slightly tweaked position of the mic, I would often cover it with my hand while sending voice messages. And on multiple occasions now I had to re-record messages because people on the other end of the line just couldn't hear me. Or I had to remember to reposition my hand so that I don't block anything. Alright, with all this in mind, let's answer the big question. Do I regret buying the iPhone Air? Absolutely not. A month in, I'm actually loving it more than I expected. There is something else about this phone that works on a purely emotional level. I have never seen so many people ask me questions about my device. It feels like I'm using a phone from the future. But in just a couple of weeks, I'm trying something completely new and totally different. I'll be rocking the OnePlus 15, which has the craziest battery size I've ever seen on a phone. Let's see if that changes my mind about the iPhone Air.